Alright, shalom to the Israelite community. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, Israelites, I want to go into that no lost tribes history. Because a lot of Israelites, man, they can't understand that it wasn't no lost tribes. And the reason they can't understand that it wasn't no lost tribes is because they don't understand dates and timeline. No lost tribes during Assyrian times. If you can see that, then you should be able to see your heritage. Assyria was trying to dodge prophecy. I'm going to show that Assyria was trying to dodge prophecy, but it didn't work. It didn't work. And that the whole history about our interaction with the other nations is false. Whenever you get Israelite history that's been out of our control, the only truthful Israelite history that you're gonna get is the Tanakh and the Israelite Brotherhood history. Because we're not using the myths. I'm not using the history that we abandoned our heritage to. I'm not using the history that the people created that we abandon our heritage to. These people right here, the Babylonian scribes that are called the Sephardists. And the reason that they created, man, a lot of false history is that, man, they converted, man, a lot of folks all around the world. They converted a lot of tribes and peoples all around the world. So they needed a way to cover that up and explain why all these folks claiming the Israelite heritage in all these different lands. So they created that 10 lost tribes history and so forth, and then that cover all the peoples that ain't supposed to have a Israelite heritage and make them into Israelites and so forth. And they did it everywhere in Africa and Asia and China and Europe, in the Americas. Man, they was making everybody into Israelites when we abandoned our heritage, and then they created a lot of false history. And I want to expose once again that it wasn't no lost tribes during Assyrian times. And then I'm going to show that the Assyrians was trying to dodge prophecy. They was trying to dodge prophecy is all that it was basically about. When you read the Tanakh, man, you get the understanding of the secret history that they've been hiding from us Israelites. We get to see it, and it's been here in our eyes and been with us for a long time, waiting on us to wake up. All right, we know in 760 BCE, prophet Jonah would go, man, to Nineveh. You know what I'm saying? He would go to Nineveh and he would tell them, men, to straighten up. And they supposed to have straightened up. And they had some unclean folks that didn't really have civilization, that was coming into civilization, acquiring a civilization, the Scythians and so forth, and the Cimmerians, the folks that live north of Assyria. And I'm going to try to get that map and pull that up. The people that live north of Assyria were starting to hang out, men and so forth, in Assyria. They hadn't made it to Babylon yet, but they was hanging out in Assyria, and then Assyria would go on a robbing spree, robbing everybody. Everybody they come across, and then they would even go get, man, the northern kingdom fighters, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, and incorporate them into the Syrian army, and they'd just rob everybody. And then, that had to come to an end. And then I could show that in 753 BCE, this is 7 years later, that'd be the book of Hosea, that the Israelites was there in Nineveh, Ephraim taking oils and trade and products from Nineveh to Egypt, and from Egypt to Assyria. And if you read the book of Hosea, you'll see that Ephraim was real wicked, real wicked, real wicked. See, 753 BCE. This is 7 years. This is 7 years after Jonah and them been to Assyria, Nineveh, telling them to get right. And then how they got right. And even the folks that didn't have civilization, who they call beasts, because they had a beastly nature, had to put on sackcloth. And we know ain't nobody putting no sackcloth on no beasts. And then how they had thousands of cattle and so forth. And that they was talking about peoples. I'm going to read some of this. But yeah, let's read some of this now. How Prophet Jonah was sent there to tell them to cut that wickedness out. So the tribe of Ephraim gonna have to been going to Assyria way before Prophet Jonah pulled up. But let's read it when you get to the good juicy part right here. When you get to 3, because we know that the Creator told him to go, he ain't go. He tried to go somewhere else. He got thrown overboard because the water was getting bad, and the folks on the ship was asking him, who ain't right with their God. And then he confessed. They throwed him over, and then he was saved, and then he was end up in Nineveh, and this is Jonah 3. And the word of the Elohim came unto Jonah the second time, saying, Arise, go unto Nineveh, that great city, and preach unto it the preaching that I bid thee. So Jonah arose and went unto Nineveh according to the word of the Elohim. Now Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, 3 days' journey, and Jonah began to enter into the city a day's journey, and he cried and said, Yet 40 days, and Nineveh shall be overthrown. So the people of Nineveh believed Yah. Now we know they gonna believe Yah because Ephraim is there. The Israelites is kicking it there. Let's see this. Let's see this. Alright. And when you go to Hosea 12. Alright. Ephraim feedeth on wind and followeth after the east wind. He daily increases lies and desolation, and they do make a covenant with the Assyrians, and all is carried into Egypt. So, man, they made a pact with the Assyrians, and all is carried into Egypt. And from Egypt, they're going to take some stuff to Assyria. So, the tribes of Israel is kicking it in Nineveh, in Assyria, and this is in 753 BCE. And we know Jonah pull up in Nineveh, and 7 years before, and that how he told them to get right. But 7 years later, they doing terrible. They ain't doing right. In seven. Let's go back to this again. In 760, Jonah pull up to tell him to get right. 7 years later, will be the book of Hosea, and 753 BCE, and then they still sinning, so they still sinning. And then we know from Jonah, from 760 BCE to 697, that'd be the book that'd be the book of Nahum, and he telling you about Assyria's destruction. This 63 years later, from 760 to 697, man, that's 63 years. So 63 years, man, Assyria finna get destroyed, and they was told they was finna get destroyed. Look what Assyria go do. Look what Assyria go do. This is what Assyria go do. They go take off after after Nahum telling them it's curtains for them. Look, look what they did. Uh, uh, in 697 BCE. So men the men from when Jonah came to the time that they went into Africa, it is 87 years. Look, the Assyrian conquest of Egypt covered a relatively short period of Neo-Assyrian empire from 673 to 663 BCE. The conquest of Egypt not only placed the great land. Look, man, well, what happened is that after Prophet Jonah done told them folks to straighten up, and they didn't straighten up, and then uh, uh, Ephraim kicking it with him, sinning with him, and then Nahum roll up and tell him it's curtains. Assyria gonna take off, and they took off into Egypt. Egypt is gonna be one of the empires that the Israelites couldn't resist and couldn't destroy. So if we telling Assyria they gonna be destroyed, makes sense for them to go run off to their enemies or the people that they think that can destroy us. And the Egyptians destroyed us in the end. That's what the book of Jeremiah is about, showing how this guy, Nietzsche put us on the Egyptian religion. He put us on the Egyptian religion, and he was set up by the Assyrians. He was set up by them. His dynasty was set up by them. And then how he would put us on the Egyptian religion, and we would go into Africa to do it and got enslaved. And that's what the book of Jeremiah is about. But Assyria went to Egypt and thinking, to hook up with them and get us on the back end, and then that's what they did. See, from the book of Nahum, in 697 BCE to the time that Assyria run into Africa be real fast. It's 24 years. It was trying to cut a trail. They was trying to get off into Africa to hide from the wrath that was coming. That the book of Nahum told them, it was curtains. And then guess who pull up next? None other than Ashkenazi, who destroyed Assyria in 612 BCE. 612 BCE, Assyria was knocked off the map forever. But don't forget, they had set up puppets, men in Egypt, just before they got destroyed, because they knew Prophet Nahum words was going to come to pass. Jonah done told them, to get right, they got right. Then they kept sending the tribe of Ephraim now with its wickedness, and we know the tribe of Ephraim was on Egyptian religion since Jeroboam brought it out of Egypt in 931 BCE. And then this is what I want to start showing, that how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes, and how it wasn't no 10 lost tribes during the Assyrian time, because Assyria needed our fighters. That's basically who they need, because they was having troubles with Ashkenazi, who had got lodged in their land and then started to take it over. And they couldn't get them out. Look, the sons of Reuben, Gad, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 440,703 that went out to war. All right, now as you go over here, and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Talicapaneser, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to, the little spot. But they would be incorporated into the Assyrian army, because Assyria going to be trying to save themselves, you know what I'm saying, after they done been told that they was going to be destroyed, you know. Now, let's go and look and see that after the so-called Assyrian captivity that the Israelites believe in, that 722 mess, that 722 BCE lie, that the Israelites was still at home, that we were still at home under King Hezekiah's history and under King Josiah's history. And we're going to see that King Hezekiah was around in 716 BCE to 687 BCE. And then that's when Assyria was trying to come through the land. You know what I'm saying? And Almighty Yah got them because Judah gonna be the only Yah worshippers after Solomon after Solomon's death, and his son Rehoboam come on and the kingdom split. That how the northern kingdom was on the Egyptian religion and so forth, and then how Judah was the only ones that was doing the Yah worship. Look, all that green, that's the Assyrian Empire, and how they conquered Egypt, trying to dodge prophecy, trying to get away from this end up here and keep the wickedness going on this end, especially after Prophet Nahum and told them that it was curtains, and I might read some of it, but I'm gonna show how it wasn't no lost tribes, and that's why it's important for the Israelites not to believe in history created by people that's been holding our heritage since we lost it, and that you're not gonna get no truth, you know what I'm saying, about them. I just showed how Assyria was really trying to dodge prophecy, how Jonah done been there in 760, and then how the Israelites were still messing off in Assyria by showing Prophet Hosea's history, how Ephraim was there, and so forth, and then how Prophet Jonah, Prophet Nahum pull up and then telling them it's over. So, then you see how Assyria go run off into Africa, into Egypt, and put the Sattite kings on. That'd be Necho and them. And then how the Necho will put us on Egyptian religion. Judah, the ones that was holding out during the Syrian times. Where the Yah worshippers at. But how Necho would trick Judah into Egyptian religion, and we all went into Africa because it wasn't no lost tribes, And this is going back to this would be 715 BCE. This is 715 BCE. This is 7 years after the so-called Assyrian captivity, is that you have the people still at home. Look. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel in Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel, for the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the 2nd month, for they could not keep it at that time because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And this thing pleased the king and all the congregation, so they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan. From Beersheba to Dan, so the people still at home. And let me show you a map of Beersheba to Dan. Beersheba to Dan. So if the people at home, and this is under King Hezekiah time, and we know that he controlled Judah, but he sent a letter from Beersheba to Dan. Look, Man, from Beersheba to Dan. Look, Beersheba all the way, man, to Dan up here. He wrote a letter for them to come to the Passover. And they came to the Passover. Look, so the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout, throughout all Israel and Judah, according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he shall return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the kings of Assyria. And then he go on down to name tribes, a whole bunch of tribes. A whole bunch of tribes he naming and so forth. So it wasn't never any lost tribes. It wasn't no lost tribes. And then when you go to Second Chronicles 34, and then you'll get his great grandson history, King Hezekiah. I, I mean King Josiah. And then you will see that it never was any lost tribes because he cleaned up the whole Israel like the prophecy was for him going back to 931 BC, almost 300 some years, man, before they made the prophecy that he would come clean up the whole kingdom of the Amorite, Egyptian worship, and all that stuff. And he did that. And then the Egyptians would kill him, that Necho dude who the Assyrians set on the throne. And then they would put us on Egyptian religion. And we would go into Africa in the book of Jeremiah. It's that easy. But when you read King Hezekiah's and King Josiah's history, you see that it wasn't no lost tribes. And then Assyria got destroyed after this. After he got killed by the Egyptians, the Assyrians got destroyed by Ashkenazi, the Scythians. You know, Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of of uh, of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Elohim of David, the Yah of David his father. And in the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars of Balaam in his presence, and the images that were on high above them he cut down, and the grove and carved images and the molten image he break in pieces, and made dust of them, and stowed it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed unto them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so did he in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, Simon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattucks round about. All right, these tribes are not going to be mentioned during King Hezekiah's time, his great granddaddy that was before him, but they mention them, meaning that they was home during the Assyrian times and after, because Assyria was destroyed in 612 BCE. But yet King Hezekiah and King Josiah got everybody at home. Everybody at home. And then we would go into Africa being tricked by the Egyptians. The Egyptians tricked us. And then that'll be the book of Jeremiah, when we broke bad, when you get around the 30s and the 40th chapter, it start breaking down how we were so wicked that we said that we was going into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. I can read it real quick. I might not just hold the camera up to all the verses, but I'm going to get to the most important verse. But all the tribes was there. Is just that the northern kingdom wasn't being talked to by Yah no more, so he wasn't naming them or dealing with them. But they was in the cities of Judah, because the Syrians, you know, they did come and they was snatching folks that the people ran to Judah inheritance, but that we was still in the northern kingdom too, as you see during Hezekiah's history and his great grandson, King Josiah. You know, all right, when you get to Jeremiah 44, and then it goes like this. 44:15. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burnt incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by a great multitude, even all the people that dwelled in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we would not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do whatsoever thing that go forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes, in the cities of Judah, in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off from burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So the 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 multi-demigod worshiping system eventually got the tribe of Judah in our last days, and it was our last act on the promised land, gonna be the book of Jeremiah, for the 99%, and we was driven into Africa. We know a little percentage was captured and took into Babylon. I got their history. That'd be the book of Ezra, Nehemiah, and then did this history right here, the exiles from Babylon history. You know, and then I show what happened to them. They disappeared so fast. But the majority of us, the 99%, all the tribes went into Africa during the Babylonian wars, when Assyria was being destroyed. After Assyria got destroyed by Ashkenazi, the Scythians, then we would go into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. This dude right here put us on Egyptian religion. Nicho. That's why there wasn't no lost tribes. Because everybody was home during King Hezekiah and King Josiah's time. Everybody was home then. And then if everybody was at home, then, how in the world could everybody be lost? I showed that we all went into Africa. We all went into Africa, and then, I showed that, your boy, the Assyrian Empire was dodging prophecy, and that how that they was trying to stick around. The Assyrian Empire was trying to dodge prophecy after Jonah had went there in 760 BCE to the time that Nahum told them they was going to get destroyed is 63 years. But from the time that Jonah told Assyria to straighten up and get right, to the time that they went into Africa is 87 years. 760 and 673 BCE, that's when Assyria went and tried to get off into Africa, trying to get away, from prophecy. The prophecy that Prophet Nahum had put on them. He put a prophecy on them for destruction in 697 BCE. So they would go into Africa trying to dodge prophecy in 673 BCE. They tried to get on down. They probably start seeing signs of the destruction of what Nahum was telling them. And then they tried to get on into Africa. Because before then, they was kicking it with Ephraim. The book of Hosea showed this in 753 BCE. They was kicking it with them. And then they would go, into Africa after Nahum said that they would get destroyed in 697 BCE. So in 673, they would head in Africa and put the Mishwish tribes on the throne, who would destroy us, Judah, the last remaining tribe, the last remaining Yah worshippers, and then our heritage would be totally in the Babylonian scribes' hand, the people from Cypher and so forth. The people from Cypher, you know, our heritage would be in their hand totally. And then the folks, Ashkenazi, after they destroyed Assyria, they would come run us into Africa. They was the Chaldeans. They controlled the Chaldean army and so forth. And they would settle in Scythopolis. So, you know, when you Israelites be getting history from these other folks that's not Israelites, man, it's not going to be right, and they not going to show you this truth that I'm showing you, how Assyria basically try to dodge prophecy, and then how that 10 lost tribe stuff is a lie, and how we was at home during the Assyrian times. Alright, Israelites, I just want to put this out. I ain't put a little video out in a little while. I'm going to start making more videos, and then I got a little surprise coming up for y'all, coming soon. Shalom. I pray everybody is doing well. To the Israelite Brotherhood family.